what's up guys, and welcome back to Move Plus. Hope you're all keeping well out there. Our workout today has 4 sections we're gonna work through. So the first one is just some warm-up work, getting the body prepped, getting the joints loose, get the muscles loose. From there, we're gonna go into the build section, which is gonna be a couplet. And we're gonna see some dumbbell swings and some dumbbell up downs. From there, we're gonna go into the move section, which is gonna be made up of 2 6-minute AMRAPs, and then we have the finisher at the end there, which is gonna be a little bit of midline and kind of core strengthening sort of work there. So as for now, guys, we'll look at that warm up. So it's gonna start off with 2 minutes of cardio of your choice. Now, we're actually gonna blend 2 movements together with this one. So the first one is gonna be a plate ground overhead. So that is gonna be going from touching the floor to locking out over the top of our head. Okay, we're gonna do 10 of those, and then we're gonna go into 20 flutter kicks. So that's setting up down in a hollow position, kicking the legs back and forth for 20. And those 2 movements will just go back and forth for that first 2-minute block. The following 3 minutes is going to be 30 seconds of plank shoulder taps. So setting ourselves up into a plank position, tapping the opposite shoulder. Okay, and then we're gonna come up into some good mornings. These will just be body weight, so just hands across the chest and just hinging over and then back up again. And we go back and forth on that for the remaining 3 minutes as 30-second blocks. Good to go, Maddie? Yeah. All right, starting in 10. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So 2 minutes of cardio up front, guys. You can pick what you want to do here. You don't have to do the same thing as us, but you're welcome to. If you are wondering sort of some other ideas, things to do, things like skipping, jumping jacks, running. If you've got space to do like shuttle runs is good, bear crawls, anything that's just nice and simple and nice and continuous that we can keep on the move for 2 minutes. As I said before, we're going to be doing these plate ground overheads for 10 reps and then the flutter kicks for 20, and that will just cycle for these 2 minutes. So as always, guys, we want to just take the time to kind of ramp the intensity up gradually, give the body time to get the joints loose, get the blood flowing, all that sort of thing. So 20 reps on the flutter kicks. So a good thing about these 2 movements being kind of paired up together, guys, is we've got one that is going to be a kind of a hip extending kind of a movement, and the other one that is going to be a little bit more of a flexion kind of movement. So they're going to kind of counteract each other or work well together to hit most of the muscles around the body at the one time. So you want to make sure you keep your back nice and straight with these ground overheads, guys. So you can see Maddie kind of flaring the knees out, got in that wide stance so he's got enough space for the plate to go between his shins. And he's hinging at the hips rather than rounding over. The top position there, that head is going to pop through as he hits the lockout. Nice. So down to the flutters again. So with this one, guys, we're in a hollow style position. So it's shoulders up off the ground, legs are off the ground, and we're just kicking them back and forth. So each kick will be counted as a rep, doing 20 of those, and just trying to keep the knees nice and straight so you actually pivot from the hips rather than the knees bending and it looking like you're pedaling a bicycle, basically. 10 more seconds. Okay, 3, 2, 1. So going to shoulder taps for 30 seconds. Okay, so creating a nice stable position, guys. We're in a push-up style position. See, Maddie has split his stance a little bit. That's just to create a little bit more stability there. He's going hand to opposite shoulder and just working really hard through that trunk to stop the hips from swaying excessively side to side. 5 more seconds, and then we're going to move to those good mornings. And go for it. So coming up to this one. Now this one, guys, generally speaking, you're gonna have the stance about sort of shoulder width, but you can play around with a narrow stance, you can play around with a sumo stance. All these things are good. You can kind of hit the muscles a little bit differently each time. Mobilize those hips and loosen up the hamstrings. So the important thing with this is that we kind of localize that, or we kind of isolate that movement down to the actual hip joint itself rather than the spine bending over at all. 3, 2, 1, and down to shoulder taps. Now you might notice that Maddie is on his knuckles with this one. This is just something individual to him that he does to get his wrists into a more comfortable position. We generally will do this one palms flat on the ground, so you guys do that at home. Maddie's got nice active shoulders, so he's not sort of slumping into it and the body's not getting into weird bad shapes as he takes the hand off the ground. He's trying to keep everything fairly still. 3, 2, 1, and back up to good morning. So we'll go to a wide stance this time, Maddie. So looking at that nice sumo stance there, we're going to unlock the knees, okay? But it's just an unlock, it's not a bend. We want pretty much 95% of the movement to happen at the hips. The knees softening is just to allow us a little bit more range of motion. You'll find that if you lock your knees right out, it's actually quite hard to get down there and maintain the back at the same time. He's keeping his head in a nice neutral position there, so he's not kind of craning that head back too much. 3, 2, 1. So one more time through these. If you are pretty confident with this movement, guys, you feel like you've got it really locked down, the hips are staying dead in the middle there, play around with narrowing the stance in if you want to. That makes it less stable and therefore is a higher demand on your midsection to control it. So you can see Maddie's gone down to almost like a hips width or even narrower kind of position and requires a lot more control. 3, 2, 1. Last sort of good mornings to finish it off. Now, if you're moving through this, guys, and you find that you get to, say, like halfway and you can't go any further without sacrificing that spinal position, don't go any further. Just keep hinging at that same point and just gradually encouraging it a little bit further, maybe a centimeter further each time. This sometimes can take time to build that flexibility up. It might not necessarily be there straight away. 3, 2, 1, and done. All right, so that's the warm-up done, guys. We're gonna jump into the build section next. All right, guys, we're gonna have a look at the build workout now. So how this one runs is we have 5 sets, and we're gonna complete them in a 10-minute window. So we're roughly looking at about a 2-minute turnaround. 2 movements we're gonna run through. The first one is a single dumbbell Russian swing, and we're gonna do this for 8 reps. So it's gonna be a nice open stance, holding onto either head of the dumbbell, and hinging the hips until we can swing up to eye level at the top. Second movement we're gonna do is 8 reps as well, but it's gonna be split to 4 on one side, 4 on the other, and that is a single arm dumbbell up down. So he's got the dumbbell set up in his left hand, jumping down, jumping up. He would go through 4 reps that way, and then he would switch hands and do 4 reps on the other side. So ideally, if we can get through the workload of this in, say, around 60 seconds-ish, give or take, that gives you some decent rest time before you hit the next round. Good to go, Maddie? Yep. All right, starting in 10. So 5 sets of this. We're starting with those Russian swings. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So main thing here is we definitely want to make some space for the dumbbell to come through because we're grabbing onto either head of it. It's generally a wider hand position than, say, if you're doing it with a kettlebell. That's going to be fairly narrow. So just make sure it's a comfortable thing. You don't want to be kind of scuffing or scraping the insides of your thighs there. And we're moving into that up down. So 4 on one side, 4 on the other. And you'll notice that obviously the hand position is going to be different from right to left. Obviously one's going to be in kind of a fist position that's holding the dumbbell there, and it will obviously be that little bit higher too. So you might have to kind of retract the shoulder blade a little bit, protract the other one just to kind of level out a little bit. That's going to all be part of the challenge of that movement. Get yourself nice and stable as you hit that push-up position at the bottom there. Nice. Okay, so we've finished sort of just under the minute there, which is good. That gives Matty plenty of time to catch his breath. And on these rests, you can just have a little bit of a walk around. Also have a little bit of a review of your technique. Was there anything there you feel like you could do more efficiently? That sort of thing. We're going to address it in the next 4 sets coming up. Okay, got about 20 seconds. We'll start getting ourselves ready for this next one. Ten seconds. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So back into these 8 Russian swings again. You want to think about when you hit the top position, guys, imagine you are back flat against a wall. And what I mean by that is we don't want to lean back past neutral, right? We don't want those hips ending out in front of us. We want to be nice and stacked at the top. So that's going to require you to be strong through your abs, strong through your glutes. Make sure we're not kind of slouching that midsection. Now we're looking at similar kind of positions with the bottom and the top of the up down here, guys. We want to make sure we are right up tall at the top, open hips, and same at the bottom. That push-up position, we should be able to draw a nice straight line from Matty's head down to his heels, through his whole body. And he's using that nice kind of bouncing sensation to sort of like hit the rebound straight back in rather than stopping out in that push-up position. He's also doing a really nice job of keeping his back active when he pulls the dumbbell off the ground. Even though we're not dealing with a really, really heavy weight, we still want to make sure we engage that midsection. We don't want to get into building the habit of pulling anything off the ground with a rounded back or a loose back. We want to be braced and active with that one. Okay, so that's 2 rounds down. Next one will be at the 4-minute marker there. We've got 3 to go. "30 seconds. "10 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. This movement is a nice explosive one, guys. So what you want to think about is your hips and your knees snapping you up to that tall position, but do it aggressively so there's some power output with it. We don't want to do it kind of slow and nonchalant. We want to make sure there's some intention in it. So try to be quite aggressive with that one. And his hand position is about shoulder width, so he's able to kind of stack his hands and therefore that dumbbell underneath the shoulders, get into a nice squared up position. The feet, you'll notice, will go quite narrow at the back and then split open at the top. So you might even end up pulling that dumbbell up in more of like a sumo deadlift kind of position rather than a conventional one. If you've got really flexible hamstrings, you can obviously go feet narrow, but the wide stance just makes things a little bit easier to work with, allows us to get those hips nice and high. Nice. All right, so another nice consistent time there, taking our rest, getting some recovery in. We'll do the next one at the 6-minute marker. Okay, we're starting in 10 seconds for our 4th round. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. Now, one of the cues that I really like with any kind of swinging motion is thinking about digging your heels into the floor. It's quite a common mistake that when people thrust those hips through, the heels peel off the ground and send the knees forward. We want to try and create nice length and extending sort of focus on that. So make sure you're pushing the heels into the floor as you drive up. That'll get those hamstrings and those glutes to play a larger role in it. Now, if you happen to be doing this with a kettlebell at home, guys, just be aware that when you go into that up-down position, that can be slightly unstable on the kettlebell. So probably working with a little less speed, just really controlling that position, making sure you don't wobble that kettlebell and tip it over. Nice. All right, so again, consistent time. We've got 1 more round to go. We'll do that at the 8-minute marker. 20 seconds. 10 seconds, we'll hit this last one. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So final round, guys, 5th round. Really checking we got that back nice and straight as we do this hinge pattern with these swings. Just bringing it to eye level. 8 reps on this one, and then we're going to move to those up downs. Nice, all right, last 4. Good stuff, Matty. So he's still hitting those nice extended positions, guys. He's not shortcutting them because he's getting tired. He's making sure he ticks the box of all the way up and all the way out at the bottom. All right, awesome. So that's the 5th one done, guys. We've got about a minute left on the timer, so if you're still going, that's cool. Keep doing you. When we get to the 10-minute marker, we'll shift into the move workout. Still got a little bit of time left, so we'll let that clock tick away. Okay, last 30 seconds, so hopefully you're getting through those last up downs. Okay, final 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and time. All right, guys, that's the build workout done. Grab some water, have a bit of a chill. We're gonna have a look at move next. All right, guys, we're gonna have a look at the move workout now. So how this one runs is we have 2 6-minute sections. There'll be a 2-minute break in between them. What we're gonna see in each of those 6-minute sections is as many rounds as possible as you can do of 3 deadlifts. So we're gonna have our double dumbbells or whatever weighted object you have at home. Okay, so first one's gonna look like this. So it's just from ground to stand up. That then rolls into 6 dumbbell hang power cleans. So this is gonna be from just above knee height up to front rack position. Okay, and then we move into 9 dumbbell push presses. So it's a dip and drive up to lockout. And that's just gonna be on repeat for those 6 minutes. As I said, we go through that 6 minutes, 2-minute break, and then we go into another 6 minutes after it. Good to go? All right, starting in 10. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. Now, hopefully what we should see for at least sort of a portion of this, guys, is that you can run the 3 deadlifts into the 6 hang power cleans, into the 9 push presses, and do it almost as a complex. Now, that's not necessarily going to be the story for the entire workout, especially if the option of weights you have at home is it's quite heavy. But we want to hopefully be able to link it together a little bit, even if it's just deadlifts into hang power cleans or hang power cleans into push presses. Try and string some of it together if you can. And then when you hit that level of fatigue, especially when we get that second 6-minute AMRAP, we've obviously been working for a while, you might start to break it up a little bit more. But just trying to work on that sort of cycling and getting that really nice fitness from hanging on, working the grip strength, all that sort of thing. So looking at 3 deadlifts, 6 hang power cleans, 9 push presses. Matty's gonna have a little break after the round, which is a good idea. Obviously this is gonna build into quite a large amount of work over the full 12 minutes. So don't have to go pedal to metal the entire time. We just wanna find a nice pace that's maintainable. Nice, Matty. So a good idea with these ones where we're dealing with sort of quite a bit of time on the clock is looking at your time splits per round. So how long did the first round take? Can we stay on that kind of cycle for as long as we can? Or have we gone out too aggressively? Have we gone out too slow? Those sorts of things. So get some awareness of how much work is happening in how much time, and then see if you can get into a pattern of repeating that. So that gives you a little bit of a goal as well. If you know it takes you, say, 60 seconds or it takes 90 seconds to do a round, you can try and stick to that cycle each time. Now looking at the deadlift, the movement, guys, two things we need to see is dumbbells touching the ground and then a nice tall stand up at the top. With the hang power clean, at the bottom we're going to stay above knee height, at least with the hands. You might find that the ends of the dumbbells might drop a little bit below them. That's okay, especially if you're pointing them down like Matty is. At the top we're going to drop into that little half catch. So it's like a quarter squat in the front rack position and then standing tall. Okay, and then we go through the push press. It is a dip drive up to lockout. Now, something that Matty's doing that I'm a really big fan of when we're doing this is he's pausing at the overhead just for a moment. Doesn't have to be too long, it's just enough to establish good control. If we are throwing those dumbbells up and then they're just falling down immediately, we're really not working that strength of that lockout position. So we want to try and take a moment to get that locked in place. Okay, so just rolled over halfway of this first section. So another quick little shake off of the limbs, and then we'll get in the next round. Now, something we've spoken about in previous times, guys, with this deadlift, touching the ground with the dumbbells is desirable, but not necessarily like something that we have to have, right? Especially if your flexibility doesn't allow for it. I don't want you to try and touch the ground by rounding that back over and getting into bad position just for the sake of touching the ground. If you work on hinging, maybe it's wrists to the level of the knees, or maybe it's midway down the calf there, wherever you can get to with a straight back and a nice clean hip hinge is where we're after. So keep that in mind as you're going through it. That might be a level of flexibility you have to build to over time. A similar sort of thing with this overhead. We want to find that that overhead lockout position is going to be a priority. So if it means going a little bit slower, if it means breaking up the reps a little bit more or going lighter, we want to make sure that we can hit that really stacked lockout position where the head is just slightly forward, we are ribs down, butt tight. Nice. Okay, we've got 1:45 until we hit that 2-minute break. And he's got a nice vertical shin, so we know he's really getting those hamstrings on. He's not letting the knees buckle forwards. And he has the same kind of nice straight back hinge pattern as he does that load up, that hang position for the clean here. I really like that when he hits that rack position, he's getting those elbows forward of his hands, right? He's not tucking them back and just doing kind of like a glorified bicep curl sort of a thing. He's actually going to get the elbows through and have that rear head of the dumbbell kind of racked on the shoulder. And that's going to translate nicely into this rack position for the push press. One thing we'll watch out for with the push press, guys, is make sure it doesn't turn into a push jerk, which is where we would dip, drive, and drop back underneath it. It's something that the body will tend to lean towards because it gives you the ability to kind of get under a bit more weight or move the same weight a little bit more easily. We're deliberately going push press to make it a challenge. Okay. Coming up on the last 30 seconds. So he's just going to roll straight into that. He knows that 2-minute break is coming up, so he's going to just grip on, work through these last few reps. Looking good, Matty. 15 seconds. Three, 2, 1, and resting. Okay, so 2-minute break here, guys. Plenty of time to get some good recovery in. What I want you to do is make a note of where you got up to in that first 6-minute section. In the second 6-minute section, we're going to try and match or even possibly beat that one. So it means you will start back at 0 and start to build that score again as a separate score to that first one. We'll be doing the same movements again, but take this time now to just have a little bit of a move around, go and get some water, stretch a little bit if you need to. Always a good idea to kind of like dry the handles on the dumbbells or the kettlebell, get as much sweat off there as you can, makes it easier on that grip. Okay, 1 more minute's break. And I'm going to get into this next 6-minute section. So remember, always a good idea, guys, just to review the technique a little bit, right? Think about the deadlift, the hang power clean, the push press. Can I do it even more efficiently? Can I hit those positions even better? Is the weight that I'm using appropriate? Am I able to string things together? All those things, try and get it to run really smoothly. I'm going to take a little bit more rest, so about 20 more seconds, and then we're going to hit this second section. Ten seconds. So we're going to start back at the deadlifts. All right, 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So guys, let's keep in mind the score we hit in the first section. Keep in mind the time splits we were hitting in that first section. See if we can stay on par with that or possibly even accelerate a little bit past it. It's always a good idea to be able to kind of challenge yourself in the realm of controlling your output, pacing, all those sorts of things. If we're able to do this with 2 6-minute sections, then when we do like a big 15, 20-minute workout, 30-minute workout, we have some idea of our capacity and we can control that to get the best possible score rather than going out too hot and then blowing up in the process. And Matty has got this really nice sort of short, sharp dip drive on the push press. He's not doing like a thruster or a partial thruster where it's like a really labored, like long squat position. It's literally just dipping the knees and rebounding straight back out. So it's almost going to have the feeling of like a bounce motion, yeah? So nice straight back, guys. Remember, only go as deep as you can go with a straight back. Matty's obviously nice and flexible. He has the ability to get all the way down there, but if you struggle with that, pull the height up a little bit, give yourself a different marker to go for. Now this movement, guys, the hang power clean and the push press, they are power-based movements. So we just talked about that short, sharp, aggressive dip drive on the push press. The hang power clean has that hinge pattern, so it's down and straight back out. It should feel almost like a kettlebell swing. And he's making a point of just getting that head just slightly forward of his arms. Doesn't have to be super over exaggerated. We just definitely don't want to leave that head out behind. Want to make sure that we can reach the body into that good position. So reaching the arms up to a strong lockout, head slightly forward, and that way the dumbbells, wrists, elbows, shoulders, all the joints down the body are going to stack on top of each other. We don't want to have that feeling of like leaning back away from it. Okay, so 2 minutes down. And we work with dumbbells as opposed to a barbell, guys. The tendency for the knees to collapse in, especially on like a deadlift or hang power clean, becomes a lot greater, right? They kind of bobble around. The legs are always trying to avoid them. So you want to make sure that we've got a stance that allows us to keep the knees open and have the dumbbells in that hang position without them kind of interrupting each other or getting in the way of each other. That outwards flare out of the knee on the deadlift, on the hang power clean, pretty much on any movement that we do, like squats or anything like that, it's going to be a lot about getting the glutes and the hips to kind of tie in together and really work hard through there. If we're collapsing in, things are kind of switching off, shutting down, and everything's just getting a bit loose and a bit inefficient. Pass halfway, Matty, doing good. Okay, short little break. Now, if we watch Matty's feet here, you'll find that when he comes down and kind of braces to do that change of direction back up again, heels are going to be flat on the floor. when he actually hits the peak of that extension, you'll notice that he kind of pops up onto his toes a little bit. That's what we call triple extension. It might even possibly happen with this push press as well. And that's just a result of the legs extending so aggressively that we kind of drive up a little bit up onto the toes just to get that extra little bit of power. So that's a good thing if we can do that. The main thing is remembering that when we come down and we're weight bearing and loading, we want those heels flat on the floor. Okay, coming into the last 90 seconds. Nice, Matty. So Matty's done a good job of still stringing all these things together. He hasn't had to break them up just yet. And you can do that at home. Can break them up if you need to, but hopefully we can kind of hang on to it, get that nice cycling kind of a feel. Now, one thing that's a big game changer with this hang power clean, and it'll be very similar with the push press, is a big shrug at the top, right? We're hip extending, that's going to get those dumbbells to start to kind of travel, and then the shrug is really going to get that last little whip of energy to get them to really pop up. So make sure that you're thinking like at the top, get tall, but also get those big like Frankenstein shoulders, get it to pop up nice and high. Okay, last 45 seconds. It's a nice vertical position Matty's got here. So when he dips, it's really just the knees going forward. It's not the hips pushing back. The hips are going to basically stay in line with the rest of his body, and it's just the legs that will flare outwards and forwards. Okay, last 15 seconds. Nice, Matty. Last couple of reps. 3, 2, 1, and done. Alrighty, that is the move workout done, guys. Get a little bit of recovery time, and then we're going to check out the finisher next. Okay, so we're looking at the finisher now, guys. This one is going to be some midline stability work. So what we're going to see is 2 movements. We've got hollow rocks, which is the first one. That's going to be 15 reps, setting up in that hollow, and we're just going to rock back and forth on that low back. Okay, 15 of those then rolls into 15 Superman rocks. So it's rolling over basically the same thing, but in reverse, okay? So 15 and 15, now you guys have got a 4-minute window to get 3 sets done. There's not really a designated time in which you have to do it on the minute or on the 2, whatever. Just go through that in 4 minutes, break when you need to. Try to keep the sets themselves unbroken, but maybe in between rounds, have a little bit of a chill, get some recovery in. Good to go? All right, starting in 10. All right, 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So important thing with this, guys, is the main one is getting the shoulders off the ground, right? There's really never a time that you should feel the upper back or the right at the top of your back where your shoulders are touching the floor. We really want to just kind of be curvy through that low back and go from pretty much the top of your butt to the bottom of your rib cage. So it's actually quite a small, quick sort of movement. If you find that you're rocking so far forward that your heels are hitting the ground, or you're rolling back and your head and your shoulders are touching the ground, it's too big, too far. Okay, as I said, this one is pretty much just the reverse thing. So limbs nice and extended, rocking back and forth. You'll find that you're mostly on your abdomen and the front of your pelvis with this one. You might kind of just start to hit the bottom of the rib cage there, and you might find that the sort of the tops of your thighs might touch a little bit as well. So just rocking back and forth on that one. A little bit of rest in between the rounds, and then we'll jump into the next set. So we've got 3 rounds of this. Maybe a 30-second rest if that feels good. So generally we want to try and structure the rest to allow us to keep going unbroken. So use up that 4 minutes if you need to. Don't take like a 5-second rest and do it again and then end up having to break it up. Rather see you take sort of 30 or 45 seconds rest and then allow that to keep going unbroken. All right, now, a couple of things that are really nice about Matty's positioning here is the legs are dead locked out, toes pointed, ankles tight together, and his arms are straight up overhead, elbows locked out. So there's really no bends or breaks there. The full body is just one tensioned piece that's rocking back and forth. You don't have any limbs kind of moving independent of each other. Everything's just moving as one piece. If you imagine like a banana just kind of rocking back and forth, it's not opening and closing, it's just one solid piece. And this is going to be the same for this Superman position. Now, one of the hardest things about this movement, guys, is getting it started. Obviously, Maddie's awesome, so he can just jump straight into it. But for those of you who maybe haven't done it before, it does help sometimes to just get a little bit of a push with your arms, almost like you're doing a push up into a up dog position, drop into that rock, and then you can continue and get those arms out. That's a good way to kind of start the movement off. Once that rock is going, it's not too bad, but generally getting that first one going is the hardest part. Now we've got one more round. I'm going to get Maddie to do a scaled down version now, so you've got some different options to work with. So we'll go to a short tuck hollow on this one, and then the Superman one, we'll just have hands on the ground, do a little bit of press. So again, just taking that little bit of rest. We'll probably go to about the 3-minute marker here, I think. He's done the last minute. All right, when you're ready. So this one we're going to do a little bit scaled down, guys. So you're going to see Maddie's going to go arms are down by his side, knees tucked in. Okay, but he still has those toes pointed, still has the ankles sort of switched on and clicked in together there. Making sure that he's not hanging onto his legs with his hands and self-assisting. You want to make sure that that drive is really coming from the abs, keeping those ribs tucked down to the belly. It'll be the same contact point on the ground, so still keeping the shoulders off, still going from sort of bottom of the rib cage to the top of the butt. Now the Superman one, we're going to have the hands just outside the shoulders. Tension the legs on, and they're just going back and forth there. You can keep your hands on the ground if you want, and press off, yep. Okay, and we're just rocking back and forth. So this one is something that you can do to kind of just work on the leg and the lower body part of this, and the arms are just going to kind of help create that rock. Okay, that's a scaled down version you can play around with for that. Alrighty, so that is the finisher done, guys. Grab some recovery, and then I'm going to go with some cool down stretches in a moment to finish off. Alrighty guys, so now that all the hard stuff's done, we're just going to cool down with a few mobility drills. The first one we're going to do is some alternating side bends. So we're going to do this for 1 minute, and what Maddie's going to do is he's going to take one foot behind the other and then basically reach over to that side. So he's gone left foot over to the right, reaching to the right, and just holding it for sort of 5 or 10 seconds. If you're hopefully having a decent stint of this mobility work, guys, spending 5 or 10 minutes doing it, feel free to extend on it. You might hold for 30 seconds each side. If you're just doing it as a short run through, 5 or 10 seconds is good, and just going back and forth, really looking to get into the lats, everything down the side, like the rib cage, down to the obliques, down to the hip, the whole deal. Notice Maddie's arm position is beautiful, right? It's really locked out, reaching tall, reaching over. Sometimes people do this one, they just kind of go bent arms and just tilt. You will get a little bit of stretch, but creating that length in the arms is really going to ramp it up. The leg switch over is just going to kind of wind up down through the side of the thigh into the hip there, so it'll just create a little bit more tension in there. All right, so that's drill number 1. Second one we're going to do is scorpion tail. So this is going to be flat on our belly on the ground. We're going to do a similar sort of deal. It's going right to left. We'll do this for the next minute. So Maddie's arm has gone out either straight out from the shoulder or slightly upwards. We don't want to have it below the shoulder. We want to be up high here. He's going to hold for a moment and then he'll roll it back the other way. So this arm now reaches out on that side angle there. Notice the body position. He's almost turning completely over, like he's almost facing the roof. So this is going to kind of attack 2 parts of the body. One is going to be like bicep, shoulder, pec, that whole kind of shoulder complex there. We're also going to have the opposite hip as that leg rolls over. It's really going to open up through the hip flex. You might even get a little bit of quad as well. And again, we're thinking sort of 5-10 seconds, holding, and then just going back and forth. If you've got more time to play around with this, guys, spend 30, 60, whatever seconds you've got, just to roll over and hold that end range position. Alrighty, so those are our 2 drills, guys. Let's see 3 or 4 rounds of that. Spend some time on it, get the body loose. Otherwise, we'll catch you next time, and that's been your Move Plus workout.